Hey, everybody, off the Mike Sports Network here, reacting to the NCAA tournament. And the big result is Arkansas, the number 10 seed in the West region, beats the what I thought was going to be America's team, Rick Pitino and St. John's, 10-2. They win in Providence, one of the high profile coaching matchups. The officiating was bad, but John Calipari, yes, John Calipari, after starting 0-5 in SEC play and 1-6, winning one of their first 7 games in SEC play as the new head coach of Arkansas, has the Razorbacks back in the Sweet 16. It's his first Sweet 16 since COVID. They had won one tournament game under teams under John Calipari. Teams coached by John Calipari had only won one tournament game since the pandemic. So this is a remarkable, remarkable story. Arkansas barely gets into the tournament as a 10 seed, one of the 14 schools from the SEC that make it. And they were talented, but yeah, they underachieved. 8-10 in conference play. They're a 10 seed. They really just kind of barely slip into the tournament. But here they are, man. They played more physical. They have a bunch of high-level transfers. John L. Davis, who came from FAU, he went to a Final Four. Jonas Adu, who was in an Elite Eight last year at Tennessee. DJ Wagner, who was on that one of those disappointing teams for John Calipari that flamed out in the first weekend. But yeah, they're in the second weekend, and John Calipari, I got to call it how I see it, man. This is redemption for him because he was much maligned on his way out the door. Like I referenced, they hadn't been to the second weekend since going to the Elite Eight in 2019. It's really a crazy story, and he had taken a lot of shit for two shocking upsets, one to a 15 seed, one to a 14 seed in the last 3 years. And it's an unceremonious exit. He goes to Arkansas. Mark Pope's now the head coach in Kentucky. He could also get to the second weekend. So both these schools could have benefited out of this whole thing. But John Calipari, look, he's been much maligned for a lot of his career, but this is a redemption year for him. And I'm really happy for him because the guy's fought through a lot. Being at Kentucky can get to a lot of people. And he was there for a long time. He won a national title, but in large chunk, kind of underachieved there, given the ridiculous expectation that is what goes on in Lexington, considering the history and prestige of that basketball program. And, maybe Mark Pope does more there, considering he's an alum. But for John Calipari to do this in his first year at Arkansas, do something that he hasn't done in 6 years, hasn't done since the pandemic, that means the world. And, call me crazy, but the way this team is playing right now, I think there's a legitimate, we see one of these, power four, power five, whatever you want to call it, one of these power conference teams that are seeded at double digits always seem to make a run through this tournament. And some of them occasionally make it to the Final Four. I could totally see this. Granted, they are in Florida's bracket. The defending champion UConn's there too. They face each other. There's some talented teams still left. Texas Tech is potentially next if Texas Tech is able to get past Drake, and who knows that'll be at the time this records or publishes. But I'm really happy for John Calipari and for the Togs Nation out there. That's a really rich basketball tradition. They lost a great coach in Eric Musselman, who just decided to get out of there. And I think there might have been a financial thing. I'm not exactly sure how that worked out, but he ended up going to USC. But yeah, this is a really great story. It sucks for it had to come at the expense of one of the great stories in America with Rick Pitino and St. John's. RJ Lewis, their star player, goes 3 for 17, doesn't play the end of the game. Kadari Richmond fouls out with like 7 minutes to go. This game was a mess, but it felt like an Elite Eight Final Four game because of the coaches and because of the physicality. There was way too many fouls that got called in this game. But the biggest story that you need to know out of this is A, good for John Calipari. This is redemption for him. And B, Arkansas can absolutely make a run at the Final Four. They can absolutely beat anybody right now, even Florida, because, hey, they're not going to be scared of any team that they've played, that they've seen Florida. And for one game, 140-minute stretch, depending on if you get extra time and you go to overtime, anybody can beat anybody on any given night in the NCAA tournament. This is what March is about. It's about great storylines. It's about, breakout performances and unlikely teams making surges through this tournament. So a really great story, and one has been kind of a dull NCAA tournament, But congratulations to the Arkansas Razorbacks, also known alum John Daly, who I know supports the basketball team, but a lot of my friends who I have known who are loyal Arkansas Razorback fans. This is earned because like this was not this was definitely not a clean season, if you will, in Fayetteville. It has not been a clean run through the season. Like I said, starting 0-5, 1-6 in SEC play in the best SEC, maybe the best league that college basketball has ever seen. But they're in the second weekend of the tournament. They're one of the last 16, and that matters. And who they play next, I think they've got a decent shot to do it. And that's better than what John Calipari's done in the last 6 years, and good for him, especially after an embarrassing exit in round one a year ago. They exited in the round of 32 prior to that, and then they lost to a 15 seed the year before that with some good talent. So to do this with a lesser seeded team really means a lot. So congratulations to everybody over there. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. I think they got a shot. Anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.